Today's episode is full of ghost stories and historical murder stories, and we have plenty of laughs to go along with it. But before I get into all of that, I got a couple things to throw your way like I normally do. Live Rishi. These guys make high quality CBD product, and it's super easy for me to talk about it because I've been using it for years. Go over to liverishi.com. Let them know I sent you by using the code word table, and you're looking at 50% off. You want to chill, relax out, and get a good night's sleep? Try the tincture. It's my personal favorite. Again, liverishi.com. Great time to jump on the CBD train. Also, my personal website for the show, waltzkitchentable.com. Would love for you to go over, click around, and check out the merch. It's at the top right corner. And also, I started a membership for only $5 a month, and you get a lot of cool things. And also, would love to hear from you. You want to be part of the show? You can contact me through there, waltzkitchentable.com. Now, on to the show. Welcome to Walt's Kitchen Table, where I feature captivating stories from fascinating people. Now, today, we had such a good time this weekend. John and I, he has an awesome podcast called Kitchen Table Historian. And I explained how we got introduced right in the beginning there through some research. But this guy is super fascinating. I love how he researches historical murders and ghost stories. And we talk and laugh about a lot of them and just have a really great time. And he's got a cool personal ghost story. But you know what? I'm just going to let him tell you. Let's get to it. So now we're recording.
Okay.
Everything you say is going to be on the internet.
On the spot now.
Oh, yeah. It does say live up on the corner, but we're not live. This is kind of a broadcast. I plan on putting this out tomorrow. So
okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Dude, when I started this podcast and I didn't research jack shit about my name, the kitchen table and all that. And about 6 months in, I go, I might want to look into if anybody else does anything with the kitchen table. And I found your podcast, dude, and it is awesome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, the narrative. I used to be heavily involved in a video photo production company, and I'm a huge guy on production and sound and that type of thing. And your narrative and the production you do, man, you do a great job.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just switch this over there. And your website's probably got everything on it, right?
Yep, everything's on my website. Everything.
All right.
No, maybe a few things you don't.
That's the whole point, right?
Exactly.
Find out something you don't know. And I was just flipping through. You got a book?
I do. I got a book coming out. A local guy named Michael McCarty. He's written, 15 million books or so. He approached me last year, wanted to know if I wanted to co-author a book, and so we did. It's called Erie Quad Cities. I'm from around the Quad Cities area in eastern Iowa. And eastern Iowa, western Illinois, we straddle the river. And it's all about Bigfoot and UFOs, ghost stories, legends and lore, that kind of stuff.
Now, when you say Quad Cities, what are the Quad Cities considered? What are the four cities?
Davenport, Bettendorf, Moline, Rock Island.
Okay. And
there's also some satellite cities around there, so everybody's always, shouldn't it be the 5 cities? It is, man. Count to 4 and just drop it.
Yeah, and then eventually
silent.
Yeah, exactly. Let it go, man. Leave it at Quad. I'm part of the Quad Cities. Pretty soon they'll be like, there's 15 of them. It's like, that just doesn't make sense. So leave it at 4, right?
Exactly.
Yep. And that can be found on Amazon. I saw something where you're going to pre-order on Amazon.
Yep, you can pre-order on Amazon. The drop date is August 23rd, and then it should be available from like Barnes & Noble, Waterstones, if you're in the UK, anything like that, any of your big retailers.
All right, do me a favor. Send me a link. I'll put it in the show notes so
Yeah.
people can find that out.
You see what I got here?
I will.
You didn't lose me, did you?
No, I got you.
Okay.
You got a funny looking face. You're making a funny face, though. No, I'm just kidding.
I can't help that. I was born with that.
Just like with family, right? You're born with family, dude. That's what you got.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. So
This thing's huge.
my, me putting the episode, my podcast together. Just a quick recap. A lot of people know, but some new listeners. My kitchen table comes from me growing up, being around the kitchen table. Good stories, life lessons, laugh and cry, the whole thing. And
Right.
if I came over to your house right now, without even saying a word, we'd probably all congregate at the table. So that's where mine came from. How did you come up with yours?
It was the same kind of experience. When I was growing up, the big hub for the family were my grandparents' house. And we would go out there and, like you were saying, we'd all congregate around the table and we would sit and we would talk about, pretty much anything. And so I wanted to recapture that feeling because I grew up in farm country, Iowa. I know it's a stretch, but really I grew up in farm country. And I've had the weirdest conversations around kitchen tables, around the tailgates of trucks, standing out in the field. I mean, some of the most bizarre places, and you hear some of the oddest things about different places and different things that I wanted to recapture that feeling of it reminded me of being at our kitchen table when I was a kid. And I wanted to recapture that feeling. Like everybody has a kitchen table, like you were saying. It was the same kind of thing. So many people have that same kind of experience. I wanted to recapture that feeling and have everybody just come in and hear a story.
Now, but how did you get to my theory was, we meet at the kitchen table and we just talk about whatever, just kind of like we're doing now. Mm-hmm. What made you go in the direction of scary stories?
I just like that stuff.
Me too.
So I didn't necessarily start out that way. I mean, so much history. I mean, I've been hearing for years how history's dry, history's boring. I hate this stuff. And then I'm a historian, and so I would tell people, well, did you know about this? Just kind of throw out some fun fact or some weird story. People are, oh, wow, that's really cool. It's like, well, yeah, I know it's cool. And they're kind of interested in history. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to educate people without putting them to sleep. And so many people got into it. They like the stories. They like the true crime. They like the paranormal. They love the legends and more because they share that stuff with each other. Well, now you're adding in all the fun facts, all the research, all this stuff. No, this really happened. And you hear stories. Well, this guy did this. Well, no, it didn't go. It happened, but it didn't go like that. It went like this. People loved it. They ate it up. And I was a little surprised they did in some ways. And I got to throw in some fun facts. Like I had this story, this murder takes place and this guy kills another guy out in his front yard. It's like 6:00 in the morning or something. It's still dark out. Dead of winter. All these other people are out there. He doesn't even notice. It's a crime of passion. And, he's just completely wigged out of his mind. And he looks up and there's all these people. Well, they're going to work. Well, where are they going to work? The same place these guys worked, which was the William Bettendorf Company in Bettendorf, Iowa. So I led into that because I want to talk about William Bettendorf. And so I led into, this is the company. This is how they all got there. And people dug it because I got to talk about that instead of just, oh, this guy killed him and he died and then he went to jail and it was a trial. I didn't want that. I mean, come on, let's put this into context. And so when you think of the story now, there's a broader context of the world.
Yep. I love them, dude. And did you think that, where did you come up with the length? Like, did you say, okay, these are only going to be a half an hour. These are only going to be an hour. They're only going to be 15 minutes. Or it depends on the research. Like how do you come up with that?
It's a combination. When I first started, it was an evolution too. when I first started, I didn't really have it. I mean, you see all these other podcasts, they're like an hour and a half. It's like, oh my God, how do you do this? And so I would put it in and I'd research it and I, dig into the stuff. And I usually do stuff generally before 1950. That is changing as I've gone along. But before 1950, there's not necessarily a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of dirt you have to dig through in order to get to what you need. And so there's a ton of research time, and I would put all this research in, hours of research sometimes, and it would be like 20 minutes. Like, boy, that's a bummer. So we'll do that. And then I started getting feedback as the podcast started growing. It's the perfect length. Because, of course, you get the people, I want more, I want it longer. Okay, well, we'll see what I can do here. And then you get so many more people saying, look, I have a 20-minute commute to work. It's there and back. I listen to a podcast. It fits in perfect. I love the length of your podcast. And so I started kind of making it roughly about 20, 30 minutes, depending on how it works. So, it's a combination of factors, but I like it at that 20 to 30-minute length because I've gotten so much positive feedback on that.
Oh, nice. And I just popped up your Instagram. You probably do the same thing I do. I just find some crazy shit that make people like. I post once a week. It's called No Shit, and when you read them, because when I read them, I'll read it and go, no shit. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that works. That's cool, dude. And now, what's your opinion of why people are all over true crime shit now? Because I think, wait, real quick though, I think it was you that posted it that said,
probably,
yeah, if I ever created a murder, God, shit, I'm gonna butcher it. If I ever created a murder, I hope it's done so badly or something I end up on a podcast or.
Oh yeah, I can't remember what it was. You either end up in jail or you end up on you just end up on a shitty podcast somewhere.
Yeah, a true crime podcast.
Yeah,
I think that was
you. That's me. I know that
guy. Why do you think true crime is so fucking popular?
That is a huge question. I have a theory because I spent so much time in the past. True crime has always been popular. People have always loved these lurid details. I don't know if it's some genetic throwback to being bloodthirsty and watching almost like gladiatorial sports or something. Well, these guys killed them, and everybody automatically gravitates towards the nitty gritty details. They want to know, the position the knife went in, and they want all this stuff, So, it's this weird combination of factors where you get people that they want to know all the details. They want to get into it. You got the almost like a subgenre where some people just like to hear it. Some people want, they want to solve these crimes, these cold cases, whatever. And, if they can do it, more power to them. Right. I don't necessarily have an issue as long as it's done in a proper fashion. But, in that case, it's almost like the thrill of the hunt. They saw this. It's like a worthy adversary, so we're going to go down and we're going to get them. So they get some kind of self-satisfaction out of that, And if it brings somebody to justice, in a legitimate legal fashion, hey, it's like being an eyewitness to something.
Yeah, but but it could go the opposite way as well.
Yes.
Did you see it comes to mind? Did you see the documentary on Netflix about that young lady that disappeared at the hotel in Los Angeles?
Yes.
You saw that?
Yeah. At the Cecil Hotel?
Cecil Hotel. Thank you.
Yep.
Crazy place. Did you see what the online did to that dude making his music? That guy that made the death music or whatever?
Yeah.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
People look at me sometimes like I'm a ghoul because, I dig this stuff. I think anybody who likes this, writes about it, gets into it, knows these stories, there's always that threat of a stigma. But I think so many of us, we tell the stories, we tell it from a historical point of view. Hey, this happened. These are the details. This is what it is. I think when you start singing about it and the stuff he was doing, hey, look what I did. he was crossing a line. Now, granted, I think everybody's going to agree that, well, probably not everybody.
Careful.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, let's see the backlash rolling in.
Yeah.
I think it was such a gimmick. And I think that if you're going to find a gimmick, because, so many of us have them and, we're kind of in a subgenre of the entertainment industry, I understand that, but it's not something that I want to be associated with in that fashion. I don't want to, the way he did it, I don't really care for it. I guess it kind of worked for him. I mean,
yeah, but I mean, the thing is,
crosses a line.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, if that's what he enjoys doing, and he finds and it's passionate about, and he's really not creating these crimes, he's just singing about them and stuff.
Right.
I don't want to take that away from him because that's him creating. Right, but what bothers me is these people jumped on him and basically destroyed him.
You know what it reminds me of, and you're old enough to remember.
Hey, what are you trying to say? Hey, dude, I'm 19.
Of course. Ain't that funny? The older you get, you're still mentally like 25 or something. Still do that?
100%.
No, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Out in a couple minutes. I did that the other day. I was out doing yard work. I found out I'm not 18 anymore. At any rate.
When the rake kicks your ass, right?
Yeah, no kidding. It's like, God, I can go all day with this. Yeah, maybe in here you can go all day. You keep
yep.
buddy. Anyway, it reminds me of the old days where you had like Slayer, and I'm trying to think of King Diamond was the big one, and even Alice Cooper, who was relatively tame by those guys' standards, and he just had a horror themed element. You had these other guys that had they went directly into the satanic things. They're talking about ritual sacrifice and all this other stuff. And that became kind of what Slayer was known for. I mean, everybody music. Personally, I love metal. They're not my favorite band, but hey, you dig Slayer, I got no problem with it.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of that a little bit. And sometimes these people jump on that. And I remember all the people jumping on them and say, oh, they're terrible, they're horrible, they're this. Look, they're musicians with a gimmick. And so many metal bands, so many other bands had a gimmick at that time. And even today, that to set them apart, hey, we don't just play fast and hard. We play fast, hard, satanic music, just set them apart. And got that. And all of a sudden, these people were, oh, wow, this is really cool. They're evil. They're evil. They're bad. They're horrible people just because of what they were doing. And then you get bands that everybody loves and everybody's so cool. Like David Bowie was big into, he actually dabbled in magic in the 1960s, 70s. And of course, at the time he admitted finally he was so blitzed out of his mind on coke and whatever else that
mushrooms.
He was living in his own world for a while. Same thing with the Rolling Stones. Everybody loves the Rolling Stones. Well, they dabbled in some weird stuff there for a while too, but they don't get that flack for it.
I like how you say dabbled.
Yeah. I think.
I don't think dabble is the right description for that.
Yeah, they dabbled in something already.
Yeah. Whew. But hey, but the thing is to creating like we're doing here. You do it, I do it. And you try to stand out a little bit. I think humans been doing that forever. And going back to why serial killers and true crime and all that, because we're a violent species to begin with.
Agreed.
So I think now with most people living a pretty passive life, and it's not hard. Like, the phrase I want to use is first world problem.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, so, I use that term myself.
Yeah, so it's still in our DNA to be violent. And if you're passive for so long, eventually something's going to happen. And I think maybe watching or listening to these true crime, it takes that away a little bit without truly acting on the violence.
Right. And Well, even back in the day, I mean, for centuries, people attended public executions. They were huge money makers. People, if you read stories from the old executions at the Tower of London, of course, not everything was in the tower itself, which some people think they were actually done on a hill above the tower, which is called Tower Green. And that's where a lot of public executions were done. Both nobility, commoners, whatever, and
Sure.
crowds of thousands of people that would come out to those. They wanted to see him during the French Revolution when they were guillotining everybody. There were several cases, and in other cases too. This is just an easy example for my slow brain right now. They would come up, dip their handkerchiefs in the people's blood. Weird stuff, and keep it. Ooh, look, I have their blood. And we look at that like, what the hell are you doing, man? That's bizarre. You'd probably get a visit from the cops for something like that now. Can you imagine doing that at a crime scene now?
Oh, shoot. Well,
Oh my God.
well, hold on. Let me back you up.
Okay, point taken.
Not
People do some weird stuff.
Yeah, nowadays, as popular as that shit is, you probably wouldn't look. They probably wouldn't look at you weird if you dipped your blood in, or you dipped your thing in, and be like, "I have a souvenir," and of course, it'd be posted all over Instagram.
A quick kind of getting off topic a little bit.
That's the whole point.
So years and years ago, there's a cemetery there's a cemetery outside of Chicago called Mount Carmel Cemetery. Enormous cemetery. I can't remember, thousands of people buried there. And one of the big things about it, amongst other things, is that a lot of the Prohibition era gangsters are buried there. So years ago, a friend of mine and I, we went up there, and we wanted to see the gangster graves. This is like, what was that? 02, I think. And so we go up there, and it's January or February. I think it's February. And we go up there, and as you go in the main gate, you turn right, and there's the Al Capone family plot. And so it's family plots. It has the big stone denoting the family name. And at the time, because they didn't want too many people coming up and doing weird stuff like chipping away the stone or anything, actually grew a bush in front of it, obscured the name. So if you found the tombstone with the bush in front of it, you found Al Capone. You go up and kind of, peek under it. Hey, there he is. And then all the rest of them, it was his mom, his dad, his siblings, his cousins, all kinds of people. There's like 10, 15 people buried there. And anybody listening to that who knows the exact count, no, I don't remember. I didn't sit there and count them. So you can wag your finger at me on the internet all you want. I don't remember. Anyway, Al Capone has a little flat about just a tiny thing, like you see in so many. And we were there. It's like, we're reading the stones. Okay, this is his mom, this is his dad, this is that. And we found his, and there was a divot, the ground in front of his grave. And that's kind of odd. You don't think about it at first, but I mean, within seconds, we're looking at it, and it looked like somebody had taken their hands like this, like you dig in the dirt when you're a kid, and you have those fingerprint gouges in the ground.
Oh.
And that's exactly what it looked like. And we're saying, why in the hell would somebody do that? That is so, that's exactly what it looked like. So my friend calls me a couple days later. We get home, and he's telling me, hey man, I looked that up, and you got to see this. Apparently, at least at this time, it was a big hobby for some people to go around to famous graves. I kid you not, to collect dirt from people's graves. They didn't dig big holes or anything, but they would dig enough to put in a little jar, and they label it Al Capone, Marilyn. Well, not Marilyn Monroe. She's in a vault in the ceiling, but you get the idea. Anybody famous that's in the ground, they would dig it up and then put a little dirt in there. So what?
And what? Have like a shelf in their house with all these little jars with all that shit in it.
They had pictures. There was some guy with a picture. It was like a collectible shelf with this, exactly what you described.
So what was it back in the 70s? They had the collectible plates. They just replaced those.
Yeah.
They just replaced
that. Go to somebody's house, and here's my collection of graveyard dirt.
Oh, I travel the world and do that. Dude, hey, you know what though, man? If that's what makes you happy and you have a good time doing it,
There you go.
Have at it, dude. Have at it.
And there was a divot. I mean, it was maybe about that thick. I mean, it's kind of done in bad taste or whatever. I mean, I understand, but it wasn't like they took a whole bunch. If you're going to do it, I guess it was done as respectfully as you. I mean, it kind of, but I'm a weird guy with that stuff, but even that was a little far for me.
So, do you try to stay around your area, or you don't? You'll research anything, right?
I do pretty much everything. I started out, I'm trying to think with the podcast. I started out as a blog, and then I switched it to a podcast. And when I did the podcast, there was a story from Iowa, and it was from Southwest Iowa, and it was this Southwest Iowa. So everybody thinks of Iowa as being kind of all farmers and corn. Well, we're a rural state. We're very agriculture. Yeah, we get that. But there's so many states that are like that. It's like Pennsylvania. I was out there a few years ago, and everybody thinks, oh, it's just all urban sprawl and everything. You've never been to Pennsylvania, have you? I mean, I remember my mind just completely got blown when I see this sign, gas in 100 miles. I'm like, what?
Well,
this can't be Pennsylvania. This is all urban sprawl, so we all have our little things. But if you go to Southwest Iowa, I mean, from where I am at, I'm on the very eastern tip of Iowa. When you go to Southwest Iowa, at least in the rural parts of it, if you go down to Omaha Council Bluffs, I mean, that's a lot bigger than people think.
Mm-hmm.
But the rural, it's like, I tell my friends, it's like stepping back in time about 30 years. Because the first time I went down there, it was to this place. My dad's family's from down there. So I've made several trips down there doing family history research and all that kind of good stuff. And had opportunity, made some friends down there, done some research for people. I love it down there. But I love the people. But I remember going to a town, here it's a city, you just kind of keep to yourself and move on. Down there, people are still waving at you going down the road. They wave at you, you see you in the street, you're a stranger. Hey, how you doing? I've been used to that since I was a kid.
Yeah, a pickup truck drives by and the old dude waves at you and you're like, who the fuck was that?
Yeah, no kidding. It's like, do I know him? I've never been there before in my life.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
But I found this story, and there's this tiny town, and I'm sure there's somebody going to say, it's not so tiny. It's tiny. Tiny town called Prescott, Iowa. Surrounded, I mean, it's like any other farm town you've been to. I mean, it is a wide spot in the road. I mean, okay. It's just really kind of a nothing bird town.
Now, does it have a traffic light or just a stop sign?
I think it's got a stop sign outside. I'm not sure if it belongs to the city or the county, to be honest with you. I mean, we're kind of getting into sketchy ground there.
I was just going to say, for you to determine between the city and the county, that's a small fucking town, dude.
It is a small town. It's got like I think it's a library / city hall, which I'd never seen before.
Oh, so you got the 7-Eleven, City Hall, laundromat, and post office, right?
Yes, it's that small. It's like we're still in pioneer days where they're combining. We made one big building and we're combining everything into it.
And we sell beds upstairs.
I remember normally I get really friendly receptions everywhere I go. And I remember, and I think it was the timing of it. There's this old guy working on his truck in the middle of the road. So I'm guessing it broke down or something. He's working on his truck and we're driving by, and he just looks out and just glares at us. I mean, it was like a drop dead look. So because I've had such good experiences in Southwest Iowa, I always just chalk it up to he was pissed at his truck. We're okay. We were just in the way. I've done that myself. We'll just forgive this guy. Now, given the story, you got to be careful though, because certain distance outside of town in 1919, this guy flipped out. He didn't even really flip out. He wasn't like angry, like, he'd had some mental problems. I mean, this guy was not dead normal and some definite anger issues. And he him and his stepkids and his kids. He had 2 stepkids, 2 kids of his own. They're sitting at the breakfast table. The wife is outside doing something else. Outside the door, grabs basically a club and beats his 2 stepkids to death. Just boom. And then when the wife came in, beat her to death. And before that, he chased the daughter down, and his own daughter, and clubbed her up alongside the head. Thought he killed her, but knocked her cold. She's got a big gash in her head. And then he goes through, he sends his son, hey, go tell your uncle that we did this. And the daughter came to, and the mom, who was still alive, she tells her, run, get help. So she runs a quarter mile down in rural Iowa winter roads, because this was January, runs down to the neighbor, like a quarter mile to the neighbor's house, gets help. And of course, back then, they still had phones. They still had phones. Like they don't now. They gave that up.
I was gonna catch you on that, dude. What do you mean still?
Fun fact that no one knows about Iowa. We don't have phones anymore here. Anyway, then you're sitting there, I interviewed this guy. Who the hell are these people? Anyway, it's like the Hells Angels. They're from Iowa.
Oh.
Anyway, so they get help. They got still the old party lines with phones where you pick it up and they had to go through the switchboard, and it's like everybody could listen in to your phone conversation. Well, it was partly that, partly them calling everybody. The sheriff still, he's over in a city, about 10, 15 minutes away, which is probably about an hour back then, depending on the roads. And they all get there. They're gathering in his yard. They kind of went up one at a time, and he came out with told them, stay back or I'm going to commit suicide. Yeah, I killed him. And of course, the body of the wife is sitting in the front yard for everybody to see. There's blood splashed against the house, and it's pretty gruesome. And he ended up he slashed his throat, and then he cut his wrist. I mean, he was right-handed, so, here and here. And they thought he was dead. And then he started twitching, and the doctor looked at him, and they found out they said the wounds were superficial. Now, I got a mugshot of him when he went to prison. The big penitentiary in Iowa is Fort Madison, or it's Iowa State Penitentiary, but it's in Fort Madison, which is in probably a couple hours south of me, in the southeast corner of Iowa. And he's got this gigantic scar down his neck. Oh, it's superficial. You got a different idea of superficial than I do, but apparently non-life threatening. He didn't.
Yeah.
And because it said that he was laying in a pool of blood. I mean, it's a gruesome scene. And then they went to the kitchen, and it's nasty. He just lost his shit then. Yeah.
Just out of nowhere.
Just completely lost it. And they're eating breakfast, and he just walked up behind them and whack.
Now, would you say
The other one.
Would you say 1919?
1919.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, it was nuts. And this is small, and I've been down the road. Coincidentally, the house is still there, and I've been out there. And I don't tell people generally where crime scenes are at unless they're in a really heavily traveled spot.
Oh, yeah, that's a good call there.
I wrote about one, and it was in one of my books, and I know the person. They still live on the property. It was 2 brothers, and the brother's house is gone. The guy who committed the crime, his house is gone, but his brother's house, it's still there. And I know the people that live in it. And she came up. She didn't know the story was in there. She didn't have any problems with it or anything. Asking questions. And she looked at this one thing, and and I explained it to her because it was a picture of a sign on the road. She's like, they didn't live there. I know, but I wanted it, be like her great-great-grandfather lived there and settled on this road, and I just wanted it for a picture. I need an extra picture for the book, so I stretched and got it. And I explained to it because she said, well, yeah, it's down here. I told her, yeah, I know, but I didn't want to tell people where you're at. I didn't want a bunch of weirdos, collecting grave dirt from the site, coming out there and bugging you guys. I didn't want it to be a tourist attraction, teenagers on a Saturday, or there are some weird people that go look for this stuff. And probably the most famous unsolved mystery in Iowa history was in Villisca, Iowa, which coincidentally isn't too far from Prescott. It's all right down the same area. I mean, as the crow flies, you're within 20, 30 minutes of each other down there. and 8 people got murdered, unsolved. It was a big gruesome thing. Of course, now the paranormal folks hit it because it's allegedly haunted. Whether it is or not, that's for other people to decide. But I mean, the murder and the whole investigation, which took ages, and what they went into, I mean, it's fascinating case. But real famous. I went down there. I've been down there 3 or 4 times to the house, and I remember looking at the house and just it was like an ant colony. There's people. It's a tiny house.
There's people all over it.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, it's a tiny, tiny house, and there were probably about 20 people in there. 20, 25. I mean, it was packed. You could move, but you had to watch where you were going.
And so, what are the people are there because of the crime, and they're like looking for? Oh my God, I see a ghost, or
both. So people, I came there for the crime. My dad took me down there. I think it might have been him where I first heard about it, and then it blew up. Villisca, it was the Villisca Axe Murder House. It's a huge phenomenon now, but back when we went, it was just this guy. The town was split by the crime. They didn't really. There were some of them that would talk about it, some of them that didn't. And then this guy named Darwin Lynn, who was a really nice guy, by the way. He's since passed away. He was older when he bought the house, but he bought the house. He knew the town, and Villisca is not a big touristy draw. And it's something to bring people in. And so we bought the house, he refurbished this, like, hey, it's a part of our history. Let's just accept it. Let's move on. And as they did that, so it was initially just the axe murder thing. And allegedly he had, and I always put an allegedly on this because it's people's stories. I've had experiences of my own that I can't explain. But some people, I don't get done this. Oh my God, what kind of person are you? Look, man, it's allegedly. Believe it or not, that's up to you.
Yep.
I'm not gonna tell you.
Yep.
But you gotta talk about the paranormal stuff, because what happened is that it was a touristy spot. I went down there to see all about the murder stuff. The first time I went down there. The second time I got lucky. There was no one. There was one other. They were a couple. They were down there. They walked through the house a little bit. I had an opportunity to go through the house. I was in there for like 20 or 30 minutes by myself. Just pure coincidence. I did it just perfectly right. The next time it was an ant colony. I mean, it's like what happened. Well, it got on this show because I was talking to one of the guys that run it. He was saying that what had happened is that there was this show that they got on, and it listed as the most haunted place or the most terrifying place in America. And then it started catching on. And before that, even these people, they thought, well, it's a big murder scene. 8 people died in that house, and violently. And they wanted to know if they could do a paranormal investigation. And the way he put it is that, and he said, we'd be willing to pay. We'd be doing that. Well, that perked up Darwin's ears. It's
of course, yeah.
You want to pay for it? I'll let you come in the same way. We want to sleep in your barn, but we'll pay you $200. Yeah, you will.
Yeah.
And so so the way the guy put it is that he said, yeah, Darwin said, okay, yeah, we'll do that. And then we're paranormal investigators, and he explained it, all nice and whatever. And he leans over to this guy. He says, what the hell's a paranormal? What are you talking about? And so he explained it, and it's become this huge thing down there. And of course, everybody has ghost experiences. So you have some people come to enjoy the history. Enjoy, I know, us weirdos again. But it's either that or they're coming to do the paranormal thing.
Now, do you believe in paranormal? Do you believe in like ghosts and all that shit?
Absolutely.
Same here.
Yeah, I've had a few experiences of my own. Okay, I hear some stories, and I've talked to other people, enthusiasts, I guess you could call us. And I've talked to some people, and they're like,
you're full of shit.
Yeah. It's like, dude, just stop. And you can tell they're making up this story as they go. It's like, what are you doing? I got to admit, I've always been a sucker for a good ghost story. So I got one for you.
All right. I like a good ghost story, dude.
So I mentioned this house in Prescott.
Wait, no, real quick though. Is this your ghost story?
It is not my ghost story. My ghost stories are a little different, and kind of, well, I can bring that back to Mount Carmel too.
Well, see, yeah, if you're going to tell a ghost story, tell one that you experienced, man.
All right. Well, it was a quick one. I thought I always liked it. So I'll tell that one, then I'll tell my personal one. There was that house in Prescott. I was talking to people that were down there. Some of them had heard about the killing, some of them hadn't. I mean, this is 1919, so some people hear about it, some people aren't. And then somebody made mention, it was this huge Facebook thing, and everybody's battling back and forth, and I'm getting in on it. It's like, this is cool, Let's get going. And somebody mentioned about, well, and then there's the ghost stories. And my ears perked right up. Like, ooh, what ghost story? What's going on? Get in there. And they had this. I finally got one of them to tell me, because then they kind of clam up. It's like, well, we're not sure what you're going to do with it. Well, I want to tell it. I want to hear this at least. And so the story was, and of course, the murder took place in the kitchen, which is in the back of the house. And somebody that this gal knew, her grandmother, and she told me who it was, I don't remember. Their grandmother lived in the house. The house is empty now. But back whenever, her grandmother and her family actually lived in the house. And they would hear, she said, the grandmother said, you would hear voices. You would hear people crying. You'd hear people shouting. You'd hear that kind of thing. And it always got louder in the winter. Well, of course, the murder took place in January of 1919. So, I mean, you take that how you want, but I'm still getting goosebumps from that. Weird. So my ghost story, the first time I ever really had a definite experience with, I was at Mount Carmel, and Mount Carmel's huge, and I've been to cemeteries my entire life.
And just a reminder real quick, Mount Carmel is where?
Chicago.
Okay.
Yep. Right outside of Chicago. So I go up there, and I'm with my friend, and we're going through, and a big thing, a lot of people do this. We would get our pictures taken at the headstones. We're taking each other's picture back. And so we took the one at Al Capone's grave. That was fine. And I always try to put some kind of caveat on this. I was tired. We traveled, I think I traveled like 6 hours because I was living in central Iowa at the time. And I met him at his house, which, he's from around here. And I met him here, and then it's like a 2.5, 3 hour drive up for us. And it was early, maybe I was off somehow. This really weird feeling, and the best I could do it was like you're being tolerated. Like they don't necessarily like you, or you're in somebody's house. They don't necessarily like you, but they tolerate you. And it's the whole thing was like this whole overriding feeling is, be respectful. You mind your place, pal. And I couldn't shake it. I thought this is the weirdest thing. Never felt like this in a cemetery. Like, what the hell is this? This is nuts. And, I tried playing it off, but I mean, it just got worse and worse and worse. Every picture we took, I mean, I was just like, almost standing at parade red. God, what is going on? And so I went through, couldn't shake the feeling. It took an effort of will to go up to one of the Sam Giancana, who ran the Chicago outfit in like the 1960s, 50s, 60s there. Really tough guy, really violent guy, somebody you wanted to cross. And he has a big mausoleum up there. A lot of them are mausoleums. And it took almost an effort of will to go up and stand next to his. It was unfriendly, like, piss off, guy. I mean, it was, and I'm just, what is wrong with me?
No shit.
It was really weird. So there was this one, so I go back to central Iowa, and I had a girl over at my apartment, and then, whoop, whoop. I'm trying to impress her with my cool history photos. Which I think back now, I mean, she fell for it, so it worked. But it's like, this is probably not the best bait to date women. Anyway, just throwing that out there.
Hey, man, and at the moment, you at the moment you got to do what you got to do what you got to do.
That's exactly right. So I'm going through it. I'm telling her all this stuff. She's, oh, let's see these pictures. So I'm looking at these pictures. This is the first time I've been through them. And we're going through it. I'm explaining to her who these people are, and I get to show off my cool expertise. I'm going through them, and there was this, the Genna brothers. It was the Genna family, and they were bootleggers, and 2 or 3 of them died. And I'm a little sketchy on the history right now. I'd have to look it back up. But 2 or 3 of them died during the Prohibition years, and violently. And
naturally.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many of them buried in this big mausoleum. And outside this mausoleum, there's 2 benches outside. So there's a sidewalk walking up to the main door, and then there's 2 marble benches on either side, marble or stone, whatever.
Yep.
Just like concrete, rather. So my friend got his picture taken. He's sitting on one. Now, this is a perfectly clear, perfectly bright morning. Everything, I mean, it's crystal clear. It was good temp. It was, and in the picture, okay, so here's him, and I flipped through, and I swear on the other bed, there's this hazy, vaguely human-shaped form, like misty form, standing by the other one, opposite him. And I'm looking at it, and I knew it instantly what I had, because I'm a weirdo. I know these things. And I'm looking, and I was rendered speechless. I'd never had an experience like this, and I was thinking back to everything I experienced while I was there. I was thinking back to every ghost show and every book I've read, and I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this. I don't necessarily want to accept it. The gal, she's standing behind me, and she kind of leans in. She goes, "Yep, you got a ghost picture." And I thought,
boom.
Yep, I do. And
you still got it?
Yeah, it's somewhere around. I showed.
Oh, dude, now you got to dig it out. We talking about it. Now you got to dig it out. Not right now, obviously.
I really kind of do. Other people have asked me, because I've told the story on my podcast, and like I said, I'm a sucker for a good ghost story.
Oh yeah. So I had one. What the hell was it? I was younger, and I was sick. So at first I blew it off to that I had a fever, right? And the way our house was designed at the time, our living room, there was a couch, and in the room behind the couch is up against the wall, and the room behind that wall was our wood stove that kept the house warm. And I was laying on the couch with my head toward the door to where the wood stove was. That makes sense?
Yes.
And I swear, man, that I heard footsteps walk past me. The handle of the wood stove creaked, and I looked, and I heard the wood stove door open, felt heat, and I'm staring at the wood stove, and it's not moving. I freaked the fuck out.
Hell yeah.
I throw the blanket over my head. I hear chunks of wood being thrown in there. The door shut, locked, and then footsteps walked past me. And I was like, what the fuck? From that day,
nuts, man.
And I was in like 7th grade or something.
God.
And from that day on, I go, there's fucking ghost. Straight up.
Yeah.
And as I got older, the more I looked into it and the more I thought about it, is we run on some kind of energy, dude. Right. Us as humans. Like, you look at a dead body and they're like, you see somebody pass, like your parents or grandparents or somebody, you see somebody pass, and you see their body sitting there. Something's not there.
Exactly.
Right? And then you look at you and I sitting here. So I believe that energy's got to go somewhere.
Exactly.
It just doesn't go away. So believe what you want. Everybody, I imagine a lot of people have their own experiences and shit, but I believe 100% that it gets maybe caught somewhere. It does, like, my energy will,
right.
Our energy goes somewhere, but with ghosts, it's stuck for some reason that I can never explain.
Yeah, there are. It's funny that your story. I wrote. There was a house that used to be in Davenport, Iowa, and it was a frat house. It was it's a big chiropractic college. It was where chiropractic started. Chiropractic started in Davenport, Iowa. Whether you're a chiropractic fan or not, it's not important to the story. But these chiropractic fraternity, serious guys. I mean, they're not doing anything goofy. They're trying to be professional. They're young men trying to break into a profession. They're studying their asses off. Some of them had already graduated that were members of the fraternity. Well, they bought a house, and it was just off campus. Like if they looked out their one window, they're going to see the.
Okay.
They wanted something fairly close for their members, especially the guys going to college. So it was in walking distance. Didn't have to live in dorms or get some kind of crappy little apartment somewhere. And so they bought this little house, and it was built. I think it was built in the 1930s, and they moved in, and they described one of the most commonly reported phenomena in that house. Now, I've made arguments that it's quite possibly the most haunted house in our region that has been reported. And they described phenomena almost exactly like you were saying. Like they would hear the front door open, and they'd hear kitchen cabinets, like somebody's going through looking for something to eat. And they'd walk upstairs, and nothing ever moved, but they clearly and distinctly heard it. You're not the only one. And those stories, like your story, that kind of stuff scares the hell out of me more than anything else. Because you hear the stuff, it's flying around the room, and there's bright lights, and there's, ghost people coming out of the walls.
Yeah, fuck all that.
Yeah. It's like, come on, man. But that stuff, it's so subtle and so natural. It's like, what the hell is
that?
That stuff just gives me the creeps.
Yeah, when I
my own house.
Yeah, when I looked, and then once I felt the heat, I just, again, man, I was like, what the fuck? And I probably said exactly that too, right?
Yeah, I would.
Speaking of hauntings, probably the scariest movie. You like scary movies, obviously, right? Okay, great. Oh God, I'm so happy for that, because most people, I'm like, you like scary movies? Nah, man. All right.
Yeah.
We'll talk about something else.
Oh, you're one of those people.
Yeah, exactly. I was dating this girl, and she's like, hey, this movie came out, and I think it's like The Haunting of Connecticut or something like that.
Yep.
Holy shit, dude. When those kids, when the sons were living in the basement, and they had like that glass wall, and behind the glass wall was like the mortuary or whatever, because it used to be a funeral home or something like that, if I remember right. So what reminded me of it was like what you just said, shit flying around the room and bright lights and knocking and all that. That's fucking whatever.
Yeah.
But the way they portrayed that haunting, just, man, I was laying in the bed with that lady I was dating, and I'm like, what the holy shit. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, and any little knock, I was like, what the fuck was that? Holy shit. That was
people in the walls. What is going on?
Exactly. That movie was so well done, like production. Really, and then I find out it's based on a true story.
Yes, that was an Ed and Lorraine Warren case, as a matter of fact.
The what now? What'd you call it?
Ed and Lorraine Warren, the Conjuring franchise.
Oh, okay.
That revolves around Ed and Lorraine Warren. That's
right. I forgot.
That was one of the big cases they investigated.
I forgot that The Conjuring was those two, that couple was part of that. I did forget about that. That was like a real couple?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're a real couple. Well, they were. They both passed away now. But, yeah, they're very much a real couple.
So they were what the ghost hunters are nowadays on TV.
They were some of the original ghost hunters. They started out. One of them had an artistic talent, and I can't remember. I want to say it was Ed, and he was pretty artistic. He would paint, and so they had a real interest in haunted houses. And this is back in the 50s when this stuff wasn't really popular. I mean, outside Universal monster movies, that kind of stuff, that was all Hollywood stuff. But people like the paranormal industry, almost like the true crime industry, you weren't supposed to talk about it in a polite company. And ghost stories and things, and there were people investigating it, but it was not like it was now. It wasn't like, like you or me could form a paranormal team and then start doing ghost hunts wherever.
Right. Now, when was their heyday?
Their heyday was quite a while. Their peak years are probably probably
late 70s, early 80s.
I would say all through the 70s, because they attached themselves to the Amityville case. One of their peak cases, the third movie that just came out, and it's getting a lot of press right now. It's called
the Conjuring third movie, right? What's that?
The Devil Made Me Do It is the tagline.
Yep, I saw that.
That was the case. It was actually it was a murder case. That's what it evolved into. And if you want to know more about it, I can't recommend it highly enough. There is a documentary on Discovery Plus called it is The Devil Made Me Do It, and it's all about the real case. They talk to the people that were involved in it, because this is 1981. They talk to people that were involved in it. They talk to a really great historian, actually knew the Warrens. He's one of my favorite guys, Jeff Belanger. Anyway, they go into detail on the case and what really happened and the facts behind the murder and all that kind of stuff. And if you want to know more about it and know more about the Warrens, that is a great documentary to get your feet wet. There's another documentary on that it's coupled down on Discovery Plus, all about the Warrens and how they got into it. And they're more cases and things.
So that second one that you mentioned is more about the couple. The first one you mentioned was more about the murder case.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
They were at times controversial. Some people, there's some controversial things allegedly attached to them. No matter what they were, from all accounts, they were a very, very, very nice couple. They were a real pleasure to be around, and their names at least were attached to some very high profile cases. And of course, now with the Conjuring franchise that started a few years ago and is continuing on, their name has definitely become a household name in the paranormal community. I mean, they're legends. They started a lot of this stuff. They were doing this stuff before it was cool. And, like Hans Holzer was a professional. I mean, he was, I can't remember what he was, but he was a professional, but he was going around doing this from a professional scientific perspective and involving even the way he involved mediums and things. It was done in a more scientific fashion to explore that route. And a lot of the early days from the 70s and 80s, most of them were parapsychologists. They had a background in psychology or scientific backgrounds or something. And the Warrens were purely, they kind of became professionals. But at the same time, when they started out, they were amateurs. They were just guys, just people that decided, hey, we want to go look at this. And that's how they got started. And they're, in a lot of ways, they're more in line with what, in the big boom in the early 2000s, the ghost hunters, and all that kind of stuff. Way more.
So they started, to sum that up, they started as a passion, right? Because they were probably interested in it.
Yeah.
And then they realized that they could make money at it.
Well, I think they made money. I don't want to, get into them. I don't know enough about them. I don't know enough to be fair to them.
Sure.
I just listened to a big interview with Jeff Belanger. He's way more an expert on the Warrens than I am. And I listened to a big interview with him and listened to the documentaries. I think they were kind of doing it professionally towards some point, and they were good at what they did, and they did what they did, and that's for other people to judge and whatever. But I don't want to go into exactly what they were doing or anything. I want to be fair to them. I
agree with that. And what I wanted to end that statement was The same thing that the ghost hunters do on Discovery.
Yeah, I think it was more in line with that.
Yeah.
And they did, because Ed had a day job for a long time, and I don't know at what point. I mean, maybe he retired and it became his job. I don't know enough about it to really speak with any kind of expertise with it. So I'm kind of hedging the line because I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I don't.
No, that's not what I want to say. That's not what I don't do.
So let me ask you this, though. Do you think that they had a room in their basement full of all that shit like they did in the movie?
No, they absolutely did. It's a real museum.
Did they? Oh,
Yeah,
did they? Oh, okay.
real.
In their house.
It was in their house. I think it was like more like I didn't think it was really in their basement. I thought it was more like an addition or like a garage.
Oh, yeah. I'm just going.
Attached garage.
Right. So
yeah, it was. Yeah, that was absolutely real.
So what'd they do? Move all that stuff out of there when they passed, and now it's a museum or something somewhere?
It was a museum when they were alive, and Lorraine took care of it. And I think somebody in their family has continued the museum. I think you can still go there.
And what is it? All the stuff that they collected through the years?
Yep.
Like they
haunted objects, cursed objects.
Yeah. Okay.
It was all
cool.
I can't remember who runs it now. I kind of have a few names floating around, but I'd have to look it up.
Do you know where it is by any chance?
I think in Connecticut. I think they were from Newport. So I think it's somewhere out there.
What's your favorite? Do you like the Conjuring movies?
I liked them. They were good. I
enjoyed them.
The stories when you get into what allegedly happened in real life and what happened in the movies. They differ a little bit, but for movies, I thought they were great. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we did too. Now, on the History Channel years ago, I used to truly enjoy the show that they had called History versus Hollywood.
Yeah, that was fun.
Did you watch those too?
Oh yeah, those are great.
Oh, I truly enjoyed those. Some of them rode the line. Some of them tried to do their best, but I mean, you can't compare, dude. I mean, a movie is supposed to entertain you for 2 hours, Yeah. And history is what it is. Did you watch? I don't know why this popped in my head. Did you watch that new version of Midway?
No, everybody tells me I need to watch it, but I haven't.
Fuck, dude. Dude, that was so well done. Extremely well done.
That's what I've heard. And
all I can tell you, when we left the movie theater, back when you could go, well, now I guess you can go back in the movies now. But we walked out of the movie theater, and my wife and I were with another couple. And my buddy goes, "What'd you think?" And I go, "I just don't know how they did it." And he goes, "What's that?" I go, "Well, I know these planes have really small cockpits in them." And I said, "I just don't know how these guys fit in these cockpits." And the guy goes, "Well, what do you mean?" I go, "Because the size of their fucking balls." Dude, when you watch that and these guys are bombing toward the ships and the enemy's boats or ships or whatever you want to call them, holy shit.
Yeah.
I can't even describe the respect I have for those guys, man. Whew.
Oh yeah. They were insane.
Oh my God. And then we could go back even, or like the D-Day.
Oh yeah.
Could you imagine the balls okay, you're on a boat, you're going to a beachhead full of guns, they're just going to plow you over. And then that they're going to, dude, all the respect in the world. But I know that's a little off topic, but I just figured that popped in my head with that kind of stuff, that with movies and the way they portrayed. But
it's everything in Hollywood. They're trying to sell a good story. They don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
No, never. But I think too, with podcasts coming out like yours, where you research it and it's fact based, but then you add entertainment value on top of that.
I try.
But that's your goal, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
you're looking at as close to 100% factual as possible.
Yes. Some people have. Uh, my second book, somebody wrote a review. It was somewhere. It's more. I can't remember. It's more. Somebody actually, it was the most scathing review I've ever gotten. I think it was. Well, I could tell within the first few pages it was going to be more fiction than fact.
No.
What the hell are you talking about? And I was really sensitive about that chapter for a long time. I'd never gotten a review. It's like it was like walking to the ring with Mike Tyson. You got hit for the first time.
Yeah.
I can take this. Boosh! I can't take this. I can't do this.
Dude, I use that phrase all the time.
Yeah.
That's the best quote ever, Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a plan till you get punched in the face.
Oh my God, yeah. And it's so true.
100%. Yep.
I remember that review, and it's like, and so that's always for years now. It's been kicking around the back of my head. It's like, I make sure to the best of my ability. Do I always get that goal? No, I've missed stuff. I've made mistakes. Everybody does, because you have so much information here. And one of the big things with that book is that I started having families step forward. I think for almost everybody in every story in that book, I had a family member step forward and contact me later. And a lot of them were able to tell me little things that you're not going to find in a book. I mean, my research materials and stuff that I dug through and clawed through and made sure everything was good and checked twice and all that, you're just not going to find it. So, I mean, there was one guy, somebody took in basically an abused wife, and husband used to do, beat her, do all kinds of horrible things, and he was a real winner. And he was one of those guys, and I hate to say this, but he ended up committing suicide, of course, after killing his wife. But when he committed suicide, you're almost like, yeah.
Like,
but this guy's such a dick.
Unfortunately, he takes his wife with him, right?
And that was sad because everybody liked her.
Well, the thing is, though, that adds to the that he's that big of a coward.
Yes, absolutely.
One, he's beating his wife, and if you're beating your wife, you're a fucking bitch to begin with. That's just my
argument there.
Yeah, and then you kill your wife, and then you're like, I'm too big of a bitch to face the consequences. I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah.
Fuck all that. Yeah, fuck
he was good. Yeah,
good ridden. Yeah, good ridden. Unfortunately, he took his wife with him.
Yeah, absolutely. But I had the family that took her in. One of their, I think it was ended up being a nephew or a cousin or something, because this was like 1897, and a friend of mine knew him and had a story to him. He said, "Oh yeah, that was my family." And so I got in contact with him. I had a conversation. He was telling me stuff about what happened to the kids, because they had two kids, and told me about where they were buried and what had happened in their life story. And he was telling me about some of the stuff that this woman did. She said, or you were saying that the wife of this couple, she used to do that stuff all the time. Anybody that needed help, they'd take in, open their house. It's like, wow, I mean, you're not going to find this stuff anywhere. I found one, actually, it was that murder I mentioned that took place outside the house, and all the people going to work watched it happen. The guy who got murdered, his family was in the house. It was a boarding house. And his wife and daughter were asleep in the house. And the woman I talked to, she contacted me. She found me by Google search. She would look up the case to see if anybody had written about it or knew anything about it once a year, she said. And she found mine and she read it, and she said that my mother was the daughter.
Sorry, you broke up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, the mother was, say that part again.
The mother was the daughter of this guy, and she was in the house.
No shit.
She remembered, she heard the gunshots and the fighting downstairs.
Whoa.
Telling me this, I'm like, whoa, that's
cool.
But yeah, I mean, and you start going into this, you can't find details like that.
No.
No, and that's other stuff. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, and going back to the Hollywood versus history, I'll make a comparison with your show. Okay, you have an incident with so much information And now you want to pack that into a good story for 20, 30 minutes. Of course, somebody's going to come back. Why didn't you talk about this? Well, come on, dude. I had 20 minutes and I wanted to hit 30,000 feet, you know? And what you're telling me is down here in the weeds. And it's cool. Thank you for telling me. And I really enjoy finding out that information. But you gotta pick your battles, you know?
You really do. I mean, and once you start doing this kind of stuff, when you watch, Hollywood documentaries especially, when they go into things that you especially know about, you start getting an appreciation for the behind the scenes stuff, how they go about their stuff, how they do things, all like that. The biggest thing for me, I've actually been touched by Hollywood.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Last year, right before the pandemic dropped, I'm talking like 2 or 3 weeks, I think, before the toilet paper shortages and all that nonsense. I'm sorry, that just still blows my mind.
Me too.
Guys go for is toilet paper. There were aisles of antibacterial soap and stuff where I was living, and the toilet paper was empty.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Crazy.
Apparently, that was going to be the new currency.
I still got pictures of that. My mind was blown. Of course, like a week after that, everything was gone. But
real quick, talking about toilet paper, I love post-apocalyptic stuff.
Yeah,
right. Love that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I listened to this guy, Mark Tufo, and he does these zombie books. They're amazing. They're funny, but he also touches on the realistic shit like toilet paper,
right,
and socks and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's where that started with the toilet paper, because everybody's like. And that's first world problems, dude.
It really is.
I don't give a shit if I got clean drinking water. I want to be able to wipe my ass with toilet paper. It's like, oh, man.
Right.
How do you think that shit's been happening? No pun intended, but how do you think that shit's been happening for the last 400,000 years, depending on what you believe in, how old humans are? But yeah, but anyway, I don't even know where we ended. I don't know where we went with that.
It's all good, man.
We're short toilet paper. That's all I remember.
Yeah. So the Dead Files on Travel Channel, they contacted me. As a matter of fact, when they did, I thought it was
a joke.
I did. I had to look it up, and it's like, is this for real?
My buddies are pranking me.
Yeah, exactly. What is this? Why do they want to talk to me? Well, they wanted to bring me in. It was one of their talking heads, basically. It's like a subject matter expert, and talk about do some research and do this story. And they contacted, would you be willing to come on? And so I'm like, well, hell yeah, why not? Once I found out it was real, I'm like, and I actually kind of drug my feet, and my family were like, no, you're going to go fucking do it.
Oh, wait a minute, though. Wait a minute. Did you drag your feet like a date? You got a woman interested in you.
I kind of did, because I was like, I don't know if I want to do TV. I don't know.
But in your head, you're like, fuck yeah. But outside, you're like, let me see. I'm not sure if I want to do that.
Yeah, it's like I was really reluctant, and so I go up there, and we met at a park in Cedar Falls, Iowa, and the episode's already dropped, so I can talk about all this. And so I go there, and it's just a park. There are people playing, there are people walking their dogs, they're doing whatever, and they show up, ultra friendly, ultra professional people. I mean, they were some of the nicest people I ever dealt with, from the producers all the way to the star, all incredibly nice people. It was such a great experience. But I watched them. They pulled up in like 2 or 3 vans, I think is what it was. And they came in, and the crew starts, there was 10, 15 people, however many it was. And start running equipment. You can tell this is not their first day. And they're running sound equipment and cables for their camera, everything they need. And they turn this park into a set in like 20 minutes.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, it was like, wow, this is neat. And I'm standing there, I'm talking to the star, one of the stars of the show. I'm talking to the producers and the director and all this other stuff. And, they're explaining to me, okay, so, this is, kind of how this is going to go. Because, first timer on TV, they're dealing with this stuff. And it was an amazing experience. But when you see behind the scenes of what you're doing, when you see it on TV, and I tell you, I'm sitting there with my family. They producer contacted me, and of course, this is all, COVID hit like 2 or 3 weeks later, like I said, and we're there, and they did a sneak preview. It was the first episode of their new season, and she contacted me and said, "Hey, it's going to be on this date. We thought we'd let you know, so you can see it." Okay, cool. Thanks. Be safe. All that good stuff. And so
wash your hands.
After you're done with this keyboard, wash your hands twice.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she came in, and so I had my whole family down there, and we're sitting in my mom and dad's living room, and my neighbors are deciding to do a little landscaping with chainsaws and stuff. So if you hear that, that's what that is. So anyway, we're sitting there and we're watching the episode, and it's like, oh, okay, so this is what's going on. And they brought me in to consult on this one story. So I don't know their investigation, nothing about that at the time. Now I watched it, it's like, oh, that was going on. But they wanted me to, talk about this one case and everything. That's what they called me about. So I'm going through it, and we're talking about it. It comes up, and my name, this is national TV, and my name comes up, John Brassard Jr. in the big blue lettering. And I'm just, wow. And my family, that was the coolest moment ever.
I'm famous.
Yeah, it's like, I went into it, it's like, this is a nothing burger thing, man. It's like, lots and lots of people do this. It's not a huge thing, but I got to admit, it was a great experience.
That's cool.
They were so good to me. For just being a, bumpkin historical guy, they called in to, to work with them a little bit. And
yeah.
It was like, this is a pretty cool experience. I got the red carpet treatment. They were really nice. And, the guy, Steve, he was, he's real friendly, and he was like, hey, kind of gave me some advice, and we were explaining something to the director. That was one of the cool moments. I got to explain something to the director. He wasn't quite understanding what was going on. And Steve, of course, was a former police officer. So we were explaining this body got washed downstream, and they strung a net across the river. And I don't remember what made the TV show and what didn't. And that's kind of what made me think all this. And we were explaining to him, he wasn't quite getting the net. He's like, what are they doing? And so I'm explaining with this former police officer. And of course, what was cool, Steve, he's like, I've done this before. This is how this works. And both explaining to this director, and he's like, oh, okay, cool. And, it was really kind of a neat experience. You never expected to do that with somebody on TV. And it was just kind of an odd thing seeing, you saw the things you talked about, and they did this long shot of us walking up, me and Steve walking up, and it was kind of funny because I was there, and we were talking about, he'd been to Rock Island, and just across, almost in my backyard. And we got talking about that a little bit, and he'd been to Villisca as well, the Axe Murder House. They did something there, and we were talking about that, and some of the things they had to do down there, and he's not a fan of the cold, so we were talking about cold stuff. And the wind was just whipping that day. It was nuts. You're watching the TV show, and of course they pare all that time down. I think we were there for maybe 20 or 30 minutes and getting what they needed and whatever else, and they pare that down to like 5. And it was really kind of weird going up. It's like, yeah, oh, that was a shot they took, and we did this, and this is what we were talking about. It was really kind of a crazy thing. It was a weird experience, but you see behind the scenes there, and it looks like we just rolled up in a park, and they had a camera there, and it was just like they were standing there. You see none of the preparation. No. You see none of. I had the sound guy, and he's running a mic up, and all this other stuff. It was like, wow, this is crazy. Real friendly guy. We were talking about vans and and racing vans of all things. And his wife wanted such and such a van. And it was seeing that. You see the magic behind the scenes that all this happened for just a 5-minute segment. It's like, wow, nuts. It's crazy what these guys do.
I was involved with a video photo production company for many years, and it's crazy. I was that guy that jumped out of the van and was running all the cables.
Oh, wow.
I was the sound guy. So I was the guy.
Oh, okay.
holding the boom over you, right? I'd come over and put the mic on, and then I'd hold the boom, and I'd be like, plane, and I would stop all production because all you hear was a plane, and it's like, yeah. So yeah, I
totally respect in the world of you guys. It's an amazing job. It really is.
It's hard fucking work, and they get zero respect. Those crew guys, man. I was part of a crew like that. They don't get any respect, and I got all the respect for them because I was there. But like you said, people watch a movie and they're like, "Why does it look like this?" Or a TV show, "Why does it look like this?" And why didn't they do this, motherfucker? Why don't you go and try it?
No kidding, right?
That's my first reaction.
I mean, I watched them, and then and you'll appreciate this. As soon as we were done filming. We did the segment, and everything. Shook hands with everybody, talked to everybody, and we're wrapping up. And just as fast as they done, these guys are just running and getting this stuff done, and it turns into a park again in another 15, 20 minutes. It's like, wow. So you guys are doing this all the time. I mean, all the respect in the world to you guys.
So part of the reason for that, I'm going to assume the park you were in. Okay, I'm going to take assumption from my experience. It's easier to beg for forgiveness and ask for permission. So them guys, they probably rolled up there with no permits, none of that shit. And they're like, we got to hustle, dude, before somebody calls somebody and we get a ticket.
Again, I can see that.
Okay. I'm not saying we never did it, but I'm just going to assume that's an assumption. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but through experience. But that's when you were talking about that, it was rolling through my mind. I'm like, yeah, it was that guy, man. We're like, okay, we're going to roll in here at 10 o'clock. Dude, you're going to do this. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. Hopefully you were the talent. Hopefully the talent doesn't freeze up and we got to coach him a lot or anything like that.
Oh, Steve was telling stories.
Oh, I could tell you stories
he was talking about this one guy they had to work with, and he had, there were some issues with it, and it was like, you never hear about this stuff on the show. And I'm sure it looked perfectly crystal clear, smooth as glass for that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and whatever they did with this guy. But he was telling me, what we had to do with this guy. It's like, wow. And they were walking me through. I mean, they treated me with kid gloves. I mean, and I appreciated that because I don't know how this stuff works. I mean,
right.
I was like a kid, I'm watching all you guys work. I was like, okay.
This is really cool. Because
great,
But the thing is, though, the crew, that's their everyday job. You never see that before, so you think
exactly.
It's just like everything else, right? You've never experienced. You had a great experience, and that's cool. To that crew, they're like, I'm just fucking slinging wire again, dude.
Exactly.
But
this guy was all right. He wasn't a dick like the last guy,
Yeah. And you ever hear the phrase in construction that was a carpenter? No. Oh no. Paint and plaster will make a carpenter what he ain't.
Yes.
Okay. The same goes with production, with an editor.
Oh, I believe that.
Yeah, if you got it, if you, no wonder editors make so much money. If you got a if you got a super talented editor, they can make up some crazy shit, and you're like, from experience, we'd film stuff and we're like, man, but that's all we could get, and oh man, and then we see it and we're like, man, that makes us look like a rock star.
It's like magic. I heard a real famous writer say, the second draft is to make people believe that this is the way you wanted it to begin with. It's like, that is so true.
Yeah, that's a cool saying. Yeah, and then I got a real good buddy of mine, and he teaches people how to speak in public.
Oh, wow.
And he goes,
not an easy job.
No. And he goes, the brain, one of his little selling techniques is, he goes, the human brain is a crazy thing. It starts working the minute you're born, and it stops working the minute the camera's in your face.
It's true too.
And he told me that years and years and years and years ago. So when I was with the video company, you'd roll up on the talent, and I'm the sound guy, so I would come over and talk to you, just to make you feel comfortable, right? I'd be talking to somebody and they'd be like, yeah, hey, everything's great. And they're all energetic and all this, that, and the other. And you turn the camera on and they're like, what am I supposed to do? Oh, wait a minute. I thought we were good, dude.
Oh, but yeah.
That's a crazy world, man. I had so much fun, and the experience I got to be involved with, and it's hard fucking work, man.
I believe it.
Yeah, and it was cool because I was able to create.
Yeah.
Right. And now I'm not involved with them. I still all know all the people, and we're all still connected and all that. But that was part of the reason I started this podcast, was to be able to create.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just like creating, and I like talking shit. So I just added both of them together. But dude, all right. So that being said, if you were, I don't know if you remember, in the beginning of this show, you're like, some of these are like an hour and a half, and I don't know what's going on with them. Do you see the ticker, dude?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, right?
It really is.
Isn't that cool?
It's very cool. I like the way that interviews and things go. I've noticed that just talking to people. Especially people who are interested in the same kind of subject matter, because obviously, we, have some of the same interests. I mean, podcasting being one. But with interviews, it's amazing. I did a radio interview for the same book I was talking about. And it was this guy, he'd been a broadcaster for, oh my God, 60 years, some insane amount, And he was telling me, I went in to do his show, and I was a little intimidated, to be honest, because it was my very first radio interview. And I think it was my very first radio interview. And I go in, and he explained, once again, I've been blessed to have some really great experiences with this stuff. And he's like, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to sit here, and lays it out for me. And then he says, it's 20 minutes. It's going to fly by. It's going to be like you never even did it. And I'm like, yeah, we'll see. And sure enough, it was done. Like, whoa, where did the time go?
Yeah, he'll be talking to you, and then all of a sudden you're saying something. He's like, okay, so that's a wrap, and you're like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, it really is. It's so crazy.
Yeah,
and like this one here, same way.
So I got to ask you, do you listen to this one podcast I love, and it's called Lore?
I used to listen to Lore. I haven't really listened to him for a while, but yeah, I enjoyed the podcast.
He does a really good job.
He does.
And he does a couple of them. So I don't mind throwing a bomb. I think it's lorepodcast.com or something like that. I bet you if you Googled it, you'd find it. He does a great job. I really enjoy that. And then my other one is the Last Podcast on the Left.
Yeah, that can be fun.
Have you checked that one out?
I did check that one out.
Oh my God, dude. Those guys
it was fun.
They cover a handful of the same stories you do.
Do they really? Because I looked through, you told me that before, and I looked through and I couldn't find any.
The thing is,
I was just kind of doing this thing.
No, it's very it's very deceiving, because like I'll listen to yours or vice versa, but I'll listen to yours and then I'm listening to them guys. I'm like, wait a minute. Did I listen to this already? No, because that was on the other one. Because they're into the same genre as you are, but they just put a different spin on it. And like I was listening today on the way home, and I was just laughing, and they don't make light of it in a way, but they do. And it's those two I like. So if you're in the same genre as you, that people like your podcast, I think they'll like those as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but
I mean, we're a minor genre, but I mean, it's all in your approach. I mean, I'm closer to Aaron Menke with Lore, but obviously his approach is different than mine, and
right.
So I mean, there's something for everybody, and he goes all over the world with stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the way he narrates it, and it's kind of, sometimes, be honest, again, I love the show, hands down. I love it. But sometimes I just can't listen to it depending on my mood, because of the tone of it.
Yeah.
It just kind of goes along, but the information he's got, it's like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah, there's some cool stories on there. There really are.
Yeah, I got the respect for you guys. I'm not a researcher. Okay, wait a minute. I am a researcher because I'm on Facebook. No,
right.
But for you guys to, because you started as a blog, blog.
Yes.
For you guys to research that and write it in a way that you can narrate a podcast, that's cool, dude. And I'm touching on that a little bit. I'll never do that in a podcast form, but I'm touching on little bit with a blog for this show, putting a blog out once. And I find that that's a really cool way to create. I guess maybe that's a good way to say it. I never thought, until I started doing it, I never thought of blogging as creating.
Right. I can see that. Blogging kind of got, because it started off, I always think of it as like a teenager doing a public diary, or in those movies.
Yeah.
And there was this boy that I really liked, and then this guy made fun of me in school. It was always that kind of thing. I'm a blogger.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do that. And then so much. I mean, it was people that wanted to write that couldn't get, because for years, even today, it's a hard gig to get into, to get actually published. And I've been published in all of my local papers now, or almost all my local papers since I started. And I got lucky with that. I feel very blessed with that, because they no longer take any like outside submissions. So it was like, it was one and done, but it was cool that I got in there. I was glad to say that, hey, I can hold it up and say, look, I did this.
I've been published.
Yeah. And
do you think they went one and done because they just got so inundated with people sending stuff in?
I think that's part of it. Because I talked to one individual later, and she was the one that told me they weren't taking any more submissions. And I talked to the one gal, the one editor or publisher, whatever she was. She left. She went to a different position or different job elsewhere. Okay. And then they just stopped answering my calls. And I think that's the biggest thing. Outright rejection, at least they spoke to me. But beyond that, ignored all the time.
Just get
that a lot.
Just get fucking ghosted.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's like you feel, it's like being a teenager, going back to the whole dating analogy. It's like, why won't you talk to me, pretty person? Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, you love me. I love you. You love me. I'm lovable.
And you're one phone call or one letter away from being considered a stalker. So you're like, yes. Where's that line? Where's that line?
I had one publisher that ghosted me, and I got a book deal, and it was ultimately rejected. They said it wasn't what they were looking for after whatever. And I was kind of bitter about the whole thing. And I'm actually in the process of more or less redoing it, more to their specifications, because my co-author for this current book coming out in August, he encouraged me to do it. He's like, come on, man, give it a try. I'm like, all right, so I did it. It's being published. It's like, okay, cool. It wasn't the book that I originally wanted, but it's a book, and I get to share my stories, and that's always fun. And, but I got rejected from that. And so I took the manuscript that I had, because it was completely done. And that was the hardest part. It's like, I got turned down, and they were trying to work with me and trying to, they were nice about it. I don't want to sound too, those awful people, those bastards, that wasn't it, it was, but I was pretty unhappy. And I think you have this finished work that everybody agreed to, and it's like, no, this isn't what we want. Thanks anyway. It's like, oh, are you kidding me? And it was like making this elaborate side table, and then, no, we don't want that, because it has a beveled edge instead of this. And it's like, come on.
Yeah.
I approached somebody else with it. I sent it off, and I didn't hear anything. Didn't hear anything. They were begging for books. Fledgling publisher. I thought, well, let's just give them a try. And they ghosted me, and I sent them an email real quick. And I was like, hey, what's going on? It was a month. I can't remember when it was. And they said, no, we've decided not to go with that. It's like, well, no offense, guys. Could you let me know that?
Yeah. So I can
somebody.
Yeah, so I can just move on. I'll take a no. Exactly. That's okay. But now I know, and I'm gone. So what'd you do? Self-publish the one on Amazon?
No, it's from a group called the History Press. They do a lot of local history and a lot of local history books, but also legends and lore, local paranormal, all kinds of stuff like that.
Oh, okay. All right.
Actually, a pretty big publisher. And this is the one book deal. I came in late to it. Mike had approached him and gotten the contract, and he was getting all jammed up with stuff. And he had written the book he wrote previous to that was called Ghosts of the Quad Cities, and he wrote that with another guy. But he interviewed me for it, and he used me and another guy pretty extensively, and I didn't know that until I read it. I remember sitting there and talking to him, and we talked back and forth, and Mike's a nice guy, and so he thought of me for this other book. He's getting jammed up. He's like, man, I just want to get this done. I had the contract, but hey, I'll talk to John. He writes stuff, and so he approached me, and we sat and we talked about it, and it's like, well, yeah, I'll go ahead and write it with you. I'd love to. This sounds like fun. And so we did it, and I had to get brought into the contract after he had already done it with this other guy. Oh, we're good. Just making sure. I got family out of town. Just want to make sure. My son was texting me earlier. He's out in South Dakota right now. I just want to make sure he's doing okay.
Good.
And, anyway, yes, they did. Sorry, I got sidetracked thinking about South Dakota and all kinds of fun out there. So he brought me in, and I had to, be brought in with the editor and everything. It was kind of an odd experience that way, but everything went well. I mean, we had a really good editor, and everything went smooth. So there was no problems, and there's certainly no problems now. But yeah, so a lot of that initial stuff, throwing the pitch and all that I'm involved with normally did not happen. So hey, write this book with me. I mean, that was almost how it was. And then a few emails. Yeah, editor said it was good. Here's a contract. They sent it to me, and then we go from here. And now we're both being in contact. It's really kind of an odd experience.
Yeah. It didn't.
We finally got everybody on the same page now, but that initial thing was kind of touch and go.
That's awesome. Well, we do got to shut this down, dude. We've been talking. Be honest with you, man. I could sit here and talk to you for 4 fucking days. But real quick though, how's the merch thing going?
It's going really good. I got sidetracked with a few things. There were a couple things that came up. I had to walk away from it, but it's still there. I'm still putting it together. And then, of course, I was on vacation here the last couple of weeks, and of course, the stuff comes up. And I'm planning on, I'm going to get this hammered out. I'm going to get it going. It's going to be great. Stuff comes up. It's like, damn it, come on, can I catch a break with this? And now I'm back at work, so it's like, I don't want to sit there at work and mess with this stuff. This is kind of unethical here. So, or at least the t-shirt thing. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I'm getting it going. I'm hoping by the end of the month.
Good. Well, we call that being Mike Tyson, dude. You had a plan, and you got punched in the face.
That's exactly it. That's 100%. Exactly it.
Every day. And then just real quick, I know I've been having it on the screen, but if they're listening to this only audio, where's the best place to find you, bud?
My best place, Google search. You can find the Kitchen Table Historian, my podcast, at any of your local favorite podcatchers, Apple, iTunes, Stitcher, whatever you got. I'm on some really obscure ones, so just look that up. You'll find me. And anything else, my website, www.johnbrassardjr.com.
Dude, you're old school, man. You put www dot in front of your. I could tell you.
Die hard.
Exactly. That's awesome, dude. Hey, man. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this, and
this has been fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for Thanks for taking the time, sitting down with me. But
Anytime.
hang on just 1 second. I'm going to stop recording, then we've got some other things I want to hit you on.
Okay, go for
All right,
it.
buddy. Thanks, man. Talk to you. Boy, did we have a good time. And how about his ghost story? Gangsters and ghosts, right? What a great combination. Look out for some stuff that we're going to be collaborating with around John's new book that's coming out. The link is in the show notes. You want to check that out, and you can pre-order on Amazon. Jump in the show notes. It'll take you exactly where you need to be. So I'm going to get you out of here because I know you got shit to do. Don't forget, liverishi.com. Use the code word table. Let them know I sent you for high quality CBD product. Also, my website, waltzkitchentable.com for merchandise information around the show. And I would love for you to check out the membership. And when I say have a great day, the motherfucker is silent. Till next time.